This video is about some of the tips I incorporated into the rough plumbing on my ADU. I'm doing as much of the work on this ADU myself as I can. So I'll just run through some of the tips that I'm doing to save myself headaches in the future. So this is the kitchen window, and the sink's going to be centered, and the faucet has a weight for the pull-out handle, and that weight moves up and down and clunks on things in some shower or some kitchens. That's because they have pipes and stuff in the way. So what I did was I made sure that my hot water was about 6 inches left of the center, drain about 6 inches to the right, and I put my cold just a little bit farther outside of that. So I don't have a problem with the clunk clunk every time you pull the handle out. I've got these plastic isolation bushings, whatever you want to call them, insulators for all of my pipes going through studs, because one, it protects the pipes from rubbing against wood, and two, it keeps the sound and the noise down. So if you have copper pipes that expand and contract when you run hot water through them, maybe the hot water has cooled off and then you run hot water through it again, the pipe expands and contracts and it squeaks on when it rubs against the wood. So what you can do is have these plastic isolator clips, and you just drill a hole that's 1 3/8 inches in diameter, and these little bushings go over the pipe, and then you just kind of push them into the hole. Another thing I did was I tried to have as few joints as possible. So I ran 3/4 inch PEX from my hot water heater out to the hot water on my kitchen wall. And instead of making a joint right here, I just continued my PEX all the way over to here so that it's fewer places to leak. And as far as running PEX through a sleeve under your foundation, this just barely worked. I had 1.25 inch PVC, and I heated it up to bend it underneath. And I've got other videos on how I did that in the past. And I just shoved this PEX B pipe down, and just all it took was one person, myself. I didn't have to pull it or fish line it. And then it eventually came up the other side. I did have a challenge getting the 2 1/2-inch PEX lines through the 2-inch PVC sleeve for running hot and cold over to my washing machine. That was not going to happen without a fish tape, so I ran an electrical fish tape from one side to the other. Put a nail through the ends of the 2 pipes that I was going to feed back across with the fish tape, and then I hooked my fish tape to that nail, and I just kind of bent the nail around and made that nice and strong. So when I had to pull pretty hard to get that through, and I think I have a video on that too, but that went well enough. It was pretty hard, but I would do it again. It worked well enough. See, the next thing is I've got my rough plumbing valves for my shower and bathtub. And I have this PEX here going up to copper. And when I know exactly how high I want my shower head, I can solder this on here at the exact height. And also I can move this around inside the wall and secure it where I need to, because of the PEX has a little bit of flex to it. And here's how my drains turned out. So I had a 5.5 or a 5-inch slab, and out here close to the edge of the footing, it slab gets a little bit thicker. And so I had to put my OT little plastic box here a little bit lower, sink it down a little bit, and then I taped it to my vapor barrier under the concrete, and then I put a bucket. I taped a bucket to cover the last 2 inches or so that my drain was not encapsulated with concrete. And so now I have my drain that I can hook up to there, and I can build my P-trap in here and have that come out exactly where I need it to for my bathtub. Here's another little tip. You're gonna need nail plates over any place where your pipes or electrical wires are within like 1.25 inches of the edge, something like that. And these plates are about 1/16 of an inch thick. And if you don't want your drywall to bow out 1/16 of an inch on your studs, you can carefully plane or find some way to take 1/16 of an inch off of your stud so that when you put this on, it's flush with the face of the stud. And then your walls are plumb and straight. Let's see, I did my plumbing tests, my drain, waste vent test, filling up the ends with the 3-inch weenie on this side and a 4-inch on the other side where it exits the house, and making sure all of the drain exits are nice and tight. And then you fill it up with water all the way to the top. And when you're filling it up, sometimes water will spill out the top if you don't stop it in time, which that happened to me. So I made sure that I cleaned up everything really nicely before I did that, so that when this whole area gets wet, you don't have a sloppy mess of wet sawdust. And that turned out well, and it passed the test. Let's see, the water test is also passed for the supply lines. So out here, we have water going into the ADU, and then I've got a shut-off valve for that. And then I also made a branch for the irrigation with a 3/4 inch female end there to put plastic into. And you want the female end to be brass, because if you have a male end and you put a female plastic around it, sometimes the plastic cracks, but it's a lot harder for the plastic to crack if it's inside of the brass fitting. So it's another good tip. And then I've got a bunch of hose bibs around the outside. I've got a hose bib over there, 1, 2, and then I've got one over there, 3, and another one on that corner, 4. And I just branched off of the cold lines and made stub outs there for that. And let's see, I made sure to brace the ends of these really good so that when I put compression fittings, you ever have to pull on them or turn them on and off, they don't wobble around inside the wall. And then I braced over here my PEX lines in the attic. I braced the cold line a little bit lower than the hot water line so that, 1, they stay isolated, but 2, the cold line doesn't get up into the hot attic. The hot line, it kind of snakes up into the warmer areas where there won't be any insulation, but that's fine. I'm okay with the hot water getting warm and staying warm. So let's see, more tips and tricks. Let's see, over here, again, as few fittings as possible. PEX all the way to a SharkBite PEX laundry box. That was handy. And then I've got cleanouts on all of my vents. And I decided to put them above where the P-trap goes in, or the drain arm goes in. And that's just because I feel like that's a place where it might be more likely to get caught, and then a drain snake can clear that quite easily. But I've seen a lot of people put them down lower. I'm not sure that makes sense, but whatever. And then let's see, another tip. We're gonna do laundry to landscape. So we're gonna have grass out there, and we're gonna water it with laundry water. And so we're gonna set up a 3-way valve here behind the laundry unit and outside of the drywall. And then it's going to have a air admittance valve, and it's going to go over and then down through the wall and then out as low as I can on the siding, and then it's going to go through like a 1-inch PVC underneath the concrete patio, and that way laundry water will just water the lawn every week. Let's see, I think that's about it for my plumbing tips and tricks. So another one was I used flexible copper to get through here because I couldn't get rigid copper through all of this, and I didn't want to have multiple joints to solder. So the flexible is handy for feeding it through, and also if you have to get around something like this, you can bend it a little bit. And I used an electric conduit bender to bend that, which it worked out okay, but yeah, I will continue to do videos on tips like this. I'm building this ADU by myself, so I'm not the best or a pro at everything, but I am doing research on how to kind of do best practices for a lot of this. And I'm making these videos so that I can remember what I did, and I can show other people what went into building this ADU, and you might learn something from it.